Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a topic that is maybe less about maximizing returns and more about maximizing clarity and, financial freedom.
Exactly.
We're looking at how you turn your raw capacity to save into a real structured plan. The mission today isn't just, save money. It's about giving every single dollar a job.
And that structure is everything.
Hmm.
Our source material gives us this really clear four-pillar strategy for managing that capacity.
4 pillars. Okay.
And it's all designed to deliver, well, serenity and efficiency. Because as we're going to see, before you put even a single coin towards some high-growth investment, you have to build these foundational buffers first. They let you weather any storm.
That focus on buffers, it feels so crucial. It really sets up the whole philosophy, which is kind of captured in this great Japanese proverb.
Yeah.
Money saved is a faithful servant. Money spent is a demanding master. And this strategy is basically the blueprint for making sure your money stays the servant.
Precisely. And to get that control, we have to look at 4 different kinds of savings. Ideally, in 4 separate accounts.
Okay, so what are they?
You've got your funds for annual expenses, then your security buffer, which is essential. Third is treasury, that's for enjoyment. And then finally, investment funds for building wealth long term.
And the main rule, the core idea, is that you can't just invest everything from the get-go.
You can't. Security and stability have to come first. It's non-negotiable.
That's the transformation we're going for today, turning that potential into a concrete, disciplined system that pretty much runs on its own. So let's start with that absolute priority, the bedrock.
Right. So segment 1 is all about the most immediate short-term needs, your annual expenses. We're talking a time horizon of less than a year.
It's a fascinating place to start because these bills are totally predictable, but they cause so much stress for people.
They really do.
We're talking about things like annual taxes, car insurance, maybe some subscriptions that hit you once a year. They feel like an emergency, but they were never a surprise.
And our source calls this the absolute #1 priority. It's compulsory spending. And the whole goal of this pillar is to smooth out that big lumpy payment over 12 months. The objective is so simple, but powerful. 0 surprise, 0 overdraft.
It's like you're budgeting your mental energy, not just your money.
That's a great way to put it.
The logic here is just so sound. The source says something like, those who do not plan for rare expenses pay for them twice, in money and in stress. And the moment you panic when that tax bill shows up, you've already failed that first step toward, serenity.
Exactly. The method for this is just straightforward math. You take the total of all those annual expenses, which you should identify first, of course, and just divide that sum by 12.
Right.
That number becomes your mandatory monthly contribution.
So let's take Sandra from our sources. If her total annual bills are, say, 2,400 euros, she just calculates that she needs to put aside 200 euros every month. Then when the big bill comes, it's not a big deal. It's already funded.
It's pre-funded. And because you need this money to be available immediately, it's pure liquidity. The recommendation is a simple, high liquidity savings account.
Yeah.
Something insured.
And the interest rate on that is probably going to be terrible.
Oh, it will be. It might even be negative once you factor in inflation. But that's okay. The job of this money isn't growth. It's safety and immediate access.
Okay, so once those mandatory bills are handled, we move to the second pillar, the foundation of serenity, security, the sacred cushion.
That's it.
I see this as the thing that gives you the psychological freedom to actually take risks later on with your investments. You know you've got this buffer.
That is precisely the connection. This buffer is strictly for major unexpected life events, things that would completely derail you otherwise. Job loss, a big health crisis, an accident.
Right.
This is the money that stops a personal catastrophe from becoming a financial meltdown.
I love the quote they used for this. Precautionary savings is money we hope never to use, but are blessed to have. It's like your own personal insurance policy.
It is. And the recommended goal for this is pretty robust. It's 3 to 6 months of your total expenses.
And we need to be clear about what total means here. It's not just your monthly rent and food.
No.
It also includes that slice of your annual expenses we just talked about.
That's the key. So for Sandra, let's say she has 1,400 euros in regular monthly bills, plus that 200 for the annual stuff. Her total monthly need is 1,600.
So 6 months of security for her is 9,600 euros.
Right, which is a substantial target.
It's a big number.
It is, and that's where the behavioral side of this comes in. The source points out how Sandra approached it. She saw that big number, and instead of getting overwhelmed, she just decided to tackle it 1 month at a time.
One step at a time.
That idea is the key to making any huge financial goal feel achievable.
But help me with this a little bit. If this security fund is for emergencies maybe 5 years down the road, and the investment fund is also long-term, isn't holding, almost 10,000 euros in a low-yield account a huge missed opportunity for growth, especially for someone younger?
That is the critical question. And the answer isn't in the math. It's in our behavior. It's psychology.
Okay.
That security fund is a bedrock of your risk tolerance. Without it, the second the market drops 20%, you panic. You're tempted to sell your investments to cover a potential emergency, and you lock in a permanent loss.
I see.
The security fund's only job is to let your investments be volatile without forcing your hand. It buys you peace of mind. It buys you time.
So it's a firewall. That makes a lot of sense. So where should this money live?
Well, since it's long-term but needs to be pretty safe and, reasonably liquid gettable within a few days, the recommendation is often something like an insurance-backed fund or a capital preservation fund.
Something that's not going to swing wildly with the stock market.
Exactly. It's designed for moderate returns, maybe 2 or 3%, while protecting the principal. Slow, steady growth.
And the warning here is pretty stark. This is a sacred safety cushion.
Absolutely. It exists only to protect you from major hardship. If you dip into it for a new car or vacation, you defeat its entire purpose, and you immediately put your investments at risk.
Okay, so we've got stability covered with annual bills, and we've got security for the big disasters. Now let's talk about money you're actually supposed to spend. The fun money. Pillar 3, Treasury.
Yes, and the Treasury has a really vital job beyond just, paying for vacations or big screen TVs.
Which is?
Its crucial objective is to completely eliminate the need for expensive consumer credit.
That's the hidden win here, because that kind of credit cards, personal loans can have crazy high interest rates, sometimes 20, even 30% a year.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So by funding your Treasury account ahead of time, you are basically creating your own line of credit, but with zero interest paid to a bank. You save before you spend.
Right. It puts you in control.
Which is why the source really emphasizes this idea. Buy with your money, not the bank's.
So for this medium-term fund money, where does the source say to keep it? We're talking less than 5 years.
Again, high liquidity and low risk are what matter most. You need to be able to grab it the moment that flight goes on sale. So it's another perfect fit for a standard, regulated, high-yield savings account.
And is there a target amount? I know it's personal, but is there a general guideline?
There is. The general suggestion is to aim for a float of around 5,000 euros. For a lot of people, that gives a good amount of flexibility for big purchases without going into debt. But, you have to tailor it to whatever you're saving for.
So we've built 3 buffers: annual bills, major emergencies, and fund money. Now we can finally talk about the money that actually works for you. Investment. Pillar 4.
Yes, and this transition is so important. You invest only money you are absolutely sure you will not need in the short or medium term.
We touched on this, but let's just nail it down. Why is it so non-negotiable to have those first 3 buffers in place?
Because the single greatest danger in investing is being a forced seller.
Right.
If you have an emergency and your only cash is in your investment account, you might have to sell when the market is down. You'd be cementing a permanent loss.
Yeah.
But if your security buffer is strong, you could just ride out the volatility. Your investments stay intact.
The goal here is long-term wealth building, what the source calls patrimoine, your legacy. So is there a starting rule? How much should you be aiming to invest?
The specific advice is to dedicate a minimum of 10% of your monthly income to investment savings, if you can.
10%.
It's not just about the number. It's about setting a high bar for your own discipline.
And looking at Sandra's story again, she found that pretty challenging at first. She said something like, that's still quite a lot, 10% of my salary. That's 200 euros a month. But the source notes that she committed to it. She understood the power of starting early.
And that leads to the really critical strategy here. Consistency over trying to save up a big lump sum.
Right, dollar cost averaging.
Exactly. It's simpler and much less risky to invest small amounts regularly. It takes all the pressure off of trying to time the market, and maybe more importantly, it builds an unstoppable habit.
I just want to clarify something for our listeners. We're talking about long-term investing here, stocks, bonds, that sort of thing. The source mentions putting this money into a passbook account at first. That's not the investment itself, is it?
No, absolutely not. That passbook is just a temporary holding area, a staging ground. You use it to earmark the money and keep it separate from the other three pools before you actually deploy it into assets that can generate real growth.
What's so fascinating is how organized you have to be. So let's pull this all together. If you have, say, a set amount you can save each month, how do you prioritize where it goes across these four accounts?
So the source suggests you can fund them in parallel if you have enough capacity, but there are strict priorities. Number one, non-negotiable. Annual expenses must be covered.
Okay, that's first. Then, do we go to security next?
Interestingly, no. The recommendation is to then jump to investment and set aside that minimum 10% of your income, assuming you can.
Okay. And then whatever's left over.
That remaining amount is split between security and treasury. And this part is flexible. If your emergency fund is looking small, you pour more into that. If it's pretty healthy, you can direct more towards the treasury for some near-term fun.
Let's use Sandra's final allocation to make this concrete. She has 600 euros a month in total savings capacity.
Okay, so she does her mandatory allocations first. 200 euros goes to annual expenses. That's 10% of her salary.
Right.
Another 200 goes to investment, meeting that minimum. That leaves her with 200 euros.
And she splits it.
She splits it. 100 euros for her treasury and 100 euros for her security fund. It's a really balanced approach that serves all four pillars.
And the engine that makes this whole thing run isn't a financial product. It's an action. Automation.
That is the crucial discipline. You have to set up automatic transfers to four distinct dedicated accounts. The goal is to separate the intention of the money, make it crystal clear.
And there's a really great practical tip in the source about timing that I love.
Yes. The recommendation is to set your automatic transfers for the 5th of the month, not the 1st.
Why is that?
It's a clever little trick to avoid problems if your paycheck is delayed by a day or two. It just ensures the process runs smoothly, and most importantly, it takes willpower completely out of the equation. It's automated. It's done.
So what does this all mean, really? The big takeaway seems to be that a successful saving strategy isn't about one big, messy account where everything gets mixed together.
Not at all.
It's about giving every single dollar a clear purpose and a destination annual, security, treasury, and investment. And that separation is what leads to clarity and serenity.
The core objective is clarifying the role of each reserve. When you know exactly what that money is for, what risks it's covering, what dreams it's funding, you gain ultimate control. And you remember that final check. You are the master and money the servant, not the reverse.
That is a really powerful framework. So to leave our listeners with something to think about, we spent a lot of time on why you have to separate the security fund from the investment fund, even though they're both technically for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So if both of these accounts have a 5+ year horizon and they're in separate accounts, what's the deeper psychological difference? How does that mental distinction between emergency buffer and future growth actually change your daily decision-making, especially when you're faced with a tough spending choice?
It really shows how much of financial success is about the stories we tell ourselves, not just what's on the spreadsheet. Definitely something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.
Absolutely. Remember to keep learning and exploring these concepts on your own journey.